Hey, how's it going, guys? Brad the Guitarologist here. Welcome to part 2 of this video on this lawnmower that I got free off the curb. This is a John Deere RX95. If you haven't seen the first part, click up here to see that. And for this one, we're going to start out checking out the solenoid that I pulled off of this thing. It was not clicking. I thought it was clicking at first, but I could not get it to click ultimately, so I'm going to test it right now just to make sure. I'm going to hook these leads up to my car battery, and we're going to test it right now. So you can see I have a stray wire running right there. I'm going to go from the positive terminal over here with that wire to this little terminal here. Okay, that's going to complete the circuit, and we'll see whether or not this plunger pulls in. If the plunger pulls in, then this is good. If it doesn't pull in, then we're going to have to replace it. Okay, so it's not the solenoid. We got to look at the starter. So that tells me that the solenoid was trying to do its job, but maybe the starter needs to be rebuilt or overhauled. So we'll proceed with that. We'll take the starter apart and basically lubricate everything, make sure that it's all free, make sure that the pinion is going where it's supposed to go and all that, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we're inside on the bench now. We're going to tear apart this starter. We've already determined that the solenoid is good. I wanted to show you how this thing hooks up, though. So it's got this this actuator here that drags down whenever it's electrified, and there is a little plastic piece on here that grabs onto an armature up here, and when it's electrified, it pulls this armature down, which raises up the pinion, which engages with the gear on the flywheel and spins the flywheel to start. I do not think that there is a switch on the seat. This is before the seat safety switches, the dead man switch, I think that most people call that. This lawnmower was made 1987 to 1990. I don't think they had that switch installed on these models at that time, and I could not see any evidence of a switch anywhere on the seat. Or on the body where the seat would contact or anything like that. I did look for one, and I did not see an actual physical switch anywhere for the seat. So I don't think you have to sit on it. You may have to depress the clutch. I thought that this was one of those where you could just simply have it in neutral, have the blade disengaged, and it should go ahead and crank over. You know, even if you're just sitting, you know, without pressing on the pedal. The clutch pedal. But I'm rethinking that. This might be a case where there is a switch and I just did not see that switch. I did look around the thing. I did not see a switch. I don't have the operator manual, and I'm not paying like $30 for one. I looked online and I found where you can download the manual, but you have to pay like $30 for the manual, and I'm not going to do that. Hell, that's half the price of a new starter. So, you know what I mean? I'm not worried about getting the manual. We'll figure everything out as we go. I do have the manual for free of the engine itself, which is the biggest part of things for me, is to just know, you know, all the torque specs and everything for the engine. If we have to dig down into it further, all that kind of stuff might come in definitely handy. And all the teardowns and everything for that, I do have all of that. So yeah, let's go ahead and take apart this starter and see if we can figure out what's going on. You know, it's going to need lubrication and stuff anyway, so it's not a bad thing to have taken this off, even if it wasn't entirely necessary. I may go back and, like I said, find out that it wasn't necessary. All right. Now, I have a diagram, too, of this this starter. So as we take it apart, we may reference that, but we may not have to. So this will come out like so. I can already tell we could stand to clean that out a little bit. Ooh, lots of crap in there. Just lots of junk and whatnot. I'll spray all this out probably later. Okay, this is supposed to, and now we're able to get this to spin now. but it feels like the bearing is really, really tight on this. Yeah, there's a little retainer pin that we got to get out of there. There should be a little groove, and that little pin is going, not pin, but yeah, little retainers going in there. Let me see if I can remove that, because we've got to lubricate this. You can see how dirty it is too. See how dirty this is? So that's likely part of the problem. This thing has just gotten a lot of dirt and crap in it, and doesn't want to spin on the bearing very well. And that looks like a pretty fragile little pin. Yeah, you know, I could probably get it apart, but if I end up breaking that thing, that could be bad. So let me I'm gonna WD-40 this, and then after that I'm gonna get some lubricant in there, some oil on this bearing. Just gonna let the WD-40 soak in here for a second and loosen up some of the grime. That's basically what I'm doing with it. I'm using it as a cleaner. So no, I'm not trying to use it as a lubricant. For some of you guys who know, WD-40 is not meant to be used as a long-term lubricant. It is a cleaner, really, more than anything. It just helps you clean this stuff. And it can, you know, it loosens the bolts and things like that when they become seized. And that's turning already much, much better just from those few seconds of being on there. So I would say all the grease in this thing was probably completely dried up. I mean, this thing's been sitting outside for a long time and exposed to all the elements. Right now I'm just getting up underneath that pinion gear right there to try to get the dirt and grime out of it as much as I can. Now eventually these will wear out, usually because these teeth right here will become so worn they won't engage. They won't engage correctly with the flywheel. And you can see all well, as I raise this up, you can see the dirt that's being pulled up now as a result of that WD-40 getting down in there on that shaft. It's loosened up some of the dirt, and that dirt's now being pulled up when I pull this thing up. So yeah, definitely, regardless of whether or not it was absolutely necessary to pull this thing from the machine, this is not going to hurt things by any stretch. Might as well go ahead and get some of this crap out of it. Here's the starter that we have in this one. They differentiate between two different starter types, a shift lever type and a Bendix type. Here's the Bendix type disassembled. And the type that we have, like I said, is a shift lever type, just based on the photographs and stuff that I'm seeing here. I don't know what the difference is between them, honestly. But here's the disassembly, like I said, number 5, that piece right there. That's the clutch assembly, and it consists of the pinion gear and the bearing that it's riding on. There are brushes in this. There's a brush, number 9 down here. It would probably be wise to go ahead and clean that.
3 hours later.
Okay, some gentle persuasion and I was able to get this apart. I was just tapping on this base a little bit. I had springs flying at me, but it is apart now, and I can see already just how dirty this is too. See all the, I mean, look at that. See how dirty this is? So it's no wonder that it wasn't spinning. And down here, I mean, look at all the rust right there where the bearing meets. And I'm not sure, is there a bearing on the bottom of this motor as well? Also the brushes, I think. Here's a brush, and here's the other brush on the other side right here. Those have to meet. Let me get this out. Those brushes, put the other spring before I lose it. Brushes meet down here, and that's pretty dirty as well. So we'll clean all this up, man, and get this in much better shape for sure. That is just, that's terrible right there. That's terrible. I'd say it's no wonder why it was seized. There's just nothing there. It's bone dry. There's no lubricant at all, and it's really, really rusty. I've got. All right. All right. Before I do anything else, I'm just gonna fill this up with some WD-40 and just let it. Oh, let's plug that hole. Maybe it won't all leak out at once. Alright, I just want to let that kind of sit on that for a little while and just sort of act on it. And then I'm going to come in with a wire brush and I'll brush that out in a bit. Let's see, this is nasty. Yeah, it's no wonder this thing wasn't spinning. But hey, I'm going to save myself about 50 bucks. I'm going to do a running total on this too. At the end of every video, I'll do a running parts total to see how much we have spent on this thing. I've already had to buy a couple things. I bought a key. I knew I was going to need hubs for the wheels, so I went ahead and got a couple of. I got hubs for the front wheels. I got that clip for to put the front wheel back on. I thought I got something else. I can't remember what it was right now. But at least those three things. Yeah, I haven't spent very much on it, but I'll do a running total as we go. So this is going to save me some money for sure. The goal here is to try to have no more than about, 70 or 80 bucks in the thing in total would be my, that's my ultimate goal. And that's including, the oil change and all of that. And I'm going to need inner tubes for the tires, so we can add that in. So, I mean, all those little things really, really add up. And the belts, the belt's going to probably cost, $20, $30. While I've got the mower deck off, putting the mower belt on, it's probably best I go ahead and replace the drive belt as well, because there's a drive belt on this machine, and it's as old as the rest of it is, so it's probably a good idea to go ahead and do that too. I am going to spray this and I'll come back and clean it. I want to be very careful with this. I want to make sure that I want to take off whatever the hell this stuff is. Looks to me like it's some burned up I don't know, just some burned up garbage, where this thing tried to turn and just ended up, well, it probably turned and just kind of burned that stuff in. But I don't want to use this wire brush to the point where I scrape off all this lacquer coating on the wire. But I do want to try to get this crap off. Not trying to lubricate this, I'm just using the WD-40 as a cleaner. Yeah, it's about to rain outside again. It's acting like it's gonna storm. So for me to set up everything, you know, to uncover the mower and to set everything up and get all my tools out and all that stuff, set up my camera outside today is probably not going to happen, but I believe these are actually copper, but they don't look like it. They look like they're so black that they are carbonized. So there was definitely some heat going on inside of this thing, you know. That burned up some of the junk that was in it, you know. Yeah, those are copper. See all the junk that's come out of there. Yeah, whatever burned up on that armature is inside of here as well. And yeah, I'm using the wire brush, but only on the iron parts, not on the wire. If you use it on the wire, it will take the lacquer off of it, so we don't want to do that. Spray it with the contact cleaner one more time. This is WD-40 contact cleaner, by the way. It's electronics cleaner. Alright, got a bunch of crap. See all the crap that came out of there. Alright, that's looking 1000% better. It's discolored, but it's not caked. I think that's going to be alright. Alright, now we'll turn our attention to this piece. This is got WD-40 already in it. We'll try to scrape as much of this corrosion as we can get out of here off. Alright, I'm going to go give this a good rinse. Okay. Now all these parts are much, much cleaner. They're not spick and span, but they are much cleaner. I still am a bit worried about this bearing, but, you know, it's definitely better than it was, and I think it was the other end of this motor that was hanging up, and not necessarily this end. I'm going to put some white lithium grease on each end of this motor, on the actual motor bearing up here, both ends. Put a little bit in there, and I'll put a little bit at the other end as well. right. And like I said, we're going to spray some electronics lubricant on these surfaces here. This would be easier probably if I had a little spring compressor tool. Get those in. But I think that's correct. I think that's correct. Right? What do you reckon? Looks correct to me. But what do I know? So now all the springs are in, and at least for the moment they are. This piece has to go underneath this, and my only concern really is this wire right here is just, you know, in the way of being able to load this. Oh, that's got it right there. There she is. All right. Okay, the goal by the end of the day, obviously, is to get this on the lawnmower and give it a crank and just turn it over. We don't want to necessarily start it right now, but I want to turn the lawnmower over with the starter. Because I mean, we got fuel system issues, and we got to clean the carb and all that stuff before we can actually start the thing. Anyway, so, and then we've got, you know, the belt and all that stuff afterwards, so we don't know what the drive mechanism is going to be like the transmission belt, drive belt, I mean. Even if the transmission works, you know, fingers crossed. The transmission is out in the thing, I mean, I think that's probably going to be about it. Probably all she wrote in that case. Okay. Oh boy, that was an adventure and a half. Okay, it's definitely about to rain on me here any second now, but this is the real moment of truth. We're going to see if the starter is good now. It's popping up, but it's not spinning. There's a bearing issue for sure. So starter's shot. We did our best, man, but best wasn't good enough in this case. The solenoid's good, so we'll pop the solenoid off of there and keep it. Starter's junk. Okay, so it occurred to me that's probably wise to do one more quick test before we condemn the starter, which is what I believe now to be at fault. I want to test the solenoid, and there are two functions of the solenoid. One is to push the pinion upward onto the flywheel. So when the coil is electrified in here, it pulls this in via electromagnetic force to pull on the arm that we saw in the starter that pushes the pinion up. So that action was working for sure. The other action that this is responsible for is inside of here there are contacts that when this is in the down position, it will bridge these two connections. And we just want to test whether or not that connection is being bridged. You can see right now, so I've got my leads connected across these terminals and it's open. When I push this down, the plunger, that does indeed connect. So basically we have the positive connected here, and then when this pulls down, it allows the positive to connect here as well, which goes inside the starter. So the starter is absolutely at fault, which I had assumed already, but like I said, I wanted to do this one final test just to make sure it wasn't the solenoid. This solenoid's good, so we can set this aside in a good pile, basically. But the starter, I'm condemning the starter at this point. I don't know what else I really can do. But we at least got around to showing how you might be able to refurbish yours, and also how to determine whether or not the solenoid or the starter is at fault. So maybe it was some value here. Okay, since it's been raining or threatening to rain here for the better part of the week, I was thinking of things that I can do maybe inside to get the ball rolling on this thing. Obviously I've been testing the starter and everything, which you've already seen, but also I want to go ahead and remove the carburetor, because I know that's going to have to be cleaned. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So we've got to remove this hose. This is the fuel line. Hang on. Okay. Yeah. See that? There's rust right there on the nipple of that, and inside the fuel line there. Might have to replace all the fuel lines too, possibly. Okay, I gotta take these linkages off. There's a couple of linkages here. Get that off of there first. And deal with these two linkages. So there's one going back here, there's another one here. One's for the choke and one's for the throttle. Okay, so this linkage has the spring in addition to the throttle linkage. So I've got to get both of those off. Okay. Alright, there's the carburetor off. We can take it inside, check it out, see what all needs to be done. Okay, here we are inside, and we can take a look at this thing a little closer. And inside of this carb is fairly clean. The thing stinks to high heaven, I can tell you that, because it had that old gas in it. And man, it's a hard thing to describe when the old gas. You can just tell it's old gas. And it's filling up the room with its stench. But I'm going to clean this. I'll probably get my carb cleaner and clean this, but I'm also going to disassemble it and drop all the pieces independently down into the ultrasonic cleaner. We'll clean it that way too. But I know for a fact it's going to need it, so there's no sense in bandying about on it. See if I can get this off without getting my... Yeah, that I'm probably gonna have to get a wrench on that to get that one off. That's a 10. I can get that. Oh boy. Oh, look at all that green. Oh, it's water. Look, water and green. Slimy gas. Look at that. Wow. See, all this stuff out here is water. Separated from the old green slimy gas. Look at that shit. Okay. Ooh, boy, look at that. Look at that. Can you see that? Look how nasty and slimy that is. Yeah, it's no wonder they parked this thing. It's no wonder they parked this thing. See there? So that's what I would call filthy. That's filthy old gas that was standing in there. Okay, we're going to wash this carb in the ultrasonic cleaner, but before we do that, I'm going to try to get as much of the grime and crap off of it as possible up front. Okay. Here's the float bowl and pin, both of which again are pretty dirty. Oh man, it's completely clogged. You're not gonna be able to see it, but it's just completely clogged in there. There's just crap. There's just crap, man, in there. See that crap that I just pulled out of there? Man, this is pretty bad. It's green. Look at all the green. Yeah, I want to get as much of this crap off the outside of it as possible up front because I don't want all of it. And stinks. God, it stinks. You know, it's what's funny too is I looked these up online and you can get a new carb for like 20 bucks. And it's really tempting, you know. It's really tempting just to grab a $20 new carb instead of going through this. Because this thing is disgusting. Okay, so I got that thing off the bowl and had to use a pair of vice grips to hold onto the bowl while I used a 1/2 inch for this, and I think it's actually supposed to be a 12 millimeter, but I've misplaced my 12 millimeter wrench, so I had to use a 1/2, but it did work. Yeah, man, look at this. Yeah, this is the disgusting just continues with this thing. Look at that. Look at the end of it. That actuates. It actually does push in and out, so you know, can you see it? There you go. See, that little piece does push in and out, so it actually does do something. And that's scary in and of itself because, like I said, there's no telling how gummed up and grimy it is. I'm going to use one of these. This is an interdental brush. There's probably better things for this, but I'm going to try to brush out as much of that green shit as I possibly can. Like I said, I'm assuming that you don't want this thing filled with water, you know. It's probably a safe assumption. especially given that it's part of the fuel system. So I think what I'll do is I'll get some, I'll try to get everything I can out of that. You know, there's old fuel and water that was already in the fuel supply. In addition to the new water that I just used. Some of it's probably in there now. But again, I've got to clean the thing. So what I'll probably do is depress this and spray that out with carb cleaner as best I can, and you know, let it dry thoroughly before trying to use it again. But I was right. You know, like I said in the beginning, when we did the assessment of the fuel system and everything, the fuel shutoff valve was not to the off position. The fuel was basically allowed to, you know, flood into the carburetor and sit there. Really what you want to do at the end of every mowing season with your equipment is when you're shutting everything down, turn the fuel valves to the off position while the engine is running, and let everything run out of the carburetor and fuel system that can possibly be run out before you store it up for the winter, you know, or before it's going to sit for a long period or whatever. That clearly was not done here, so we've got this problem as a result. Let me see. Let's back that screw out. Alright, which has got gunk all on the tip of that. More green. Jeez. Oh, goodness gracious. Wow, look at that. I wonder how long this thing has sat. You know, it's definitely been for several years, if not many years, you know. It was made between 87 and 1990, so it's had plenty of opportunity to need service throughout the years, I'm sure, and probably has had just as many opportunities where the owner has failed to failed to give it the service that it needed. That would be my guess. This little dental brush is doing a good job. It's getting a lot of shit out of there. But I don't know if it's going to be enough, because boy is this thing nasty. And if you're wondering, this is just soapy water. This is just Dawn dish liquid, which I had hoped would, you know, kind of degrease things a little bit while I clean it. It's not ideal, you know, with gasoline and oil and stuff like that to use soapy water, but it's definitely better than nothing, and it's better than a lot of other more toxic options too. So, but we will thoroughly also spray this once we're done with carb cleaner and let it dry. The manual calls for a carb cleaner. It says use PT503 carb cleaner or equivalent. PT503, whatever that is. I don't know if that's something that that's the Mitsubishi manual. Someone in the last video also was saying that their 200 series, I think it was FB 200 something engine, they could not get parts for. It was a Mitsubishi also from another model. They were saying they couldn't get parts for it, but I think I've lucked out with this one. This FB 460 V engine
by Mitsubishi apparently has been used on a lot of different things throughout the years, and it's still being used in some Mitsubishi motorcycles. That's good, you know, because that means parts should continue to be available for some time to come for this mower, at least for the engine. And I also looked up some other parts from John Deere for some of the other pieces, and I haven't come across anything yet that I wasn't able to find a replacement for. So that's always real good when you can find documentation for the thing. First of all, the company's still in business and still selling replacement parts, both the mower and the engine companies. So that's definitely a plus with this one, and that's what kind of made the decision for me to go ahead and try to restore this thing rather than let it, let it go to the dump as it was about to do. All right, I think I've about got that as clean as I can with this brush. I'm going to put it in the Ultrasonic now, along with these other pieces, and see if we can't make some more progress. Alright, I want to see about where this is so I can tell where to start out at. So I want to, from where it sat before, which is about right there, okay, I want to screw it all the way in. So we're going to go, there's a half turn, there's a full turn, and it's about 1 1/4 turns. We'll go all the way in, and then we'll turn it about 1 1/4 times all the way out. So there's half, there's that, and then we'll do that right there. And that's going to get it back to where it was. Okay, this one here has a locking screw on it. So we'll go ahead and remove that. So it's like, that's some kind of factory set thing. They don't want you moving. That's not what I think it is. Maybe that just pops out. Yeah, there's no threads. Okay. No threads. Okay, yeah, that's why. So this has several little jets in it. Alright, and it has to be locked in a certain position, and that's why, because it has to be in the correct position to operate. Can you see those little holes in this thing? I'm gonna run this through each of these holes. Yeah, these things are perfect for cleaning a carb like this. These are interdental brushes made for like in between your teeth. It's kind of a substitute for flossing. I would caution you though, if you do use these, the wire, make sure you don't rub the wire portion onto your teeth. Just try to, if your teeth are really tight together, try not to do that, because you can damage your teeth if you use these on teeth. But they're great for this. They also make good stylus brushes for your LP styli. You know, you just rub this on there and clean them off. Great for that too. And then it looks like it's got one here on the end as well. Is that correct? Maybe not. Yeah, there is one on the end. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that or not. That's going in there. Slowly. Alright. Tore up my brush, but sure got that clean. I'm going to drop everything in the ultrasonic cleaner now and let it run for a little bit, and we'll come back to it. I've already run it through one cycle of 10 minutes, and there was some dirt in the bottom, so I know it did some good. So I'm running through another cycle of 10 minutes.
May give it a little bit of time, rinse it off, rinse all the parts again, run it through this solution one more time. It's basically just soapy, warm water. After this, I want to give it everything a nice clean rinse, so I'll use just clean water to do that at the very end. I may also, like I said, I may find some solution that I can soak this stuff in, but eventually I'm going to spray everything down with carb cleaner, clean all the jets, particularly with the carb cleaner, let some carb cleaner kind of set in it for a little bit in the various parts, and just eat away hopefully anything left, any of the varnish. And after that, I think we'll be ready to go. This is everything cleaned up pretty nice from what I could tell, so I think this is still going to be a usable carb.
Okay, so all those other parts are currently cleaning. This is a fuel shutoff solenoid. So once the key turns off and this is no longer electrified, this will spring into the outward position that it currently is right now and stay there. So when it's electrified, this retracts and lets fuel through. So that's the purpose of that. So while all of the other parts for the carb are cleaning in the ultrasonic, we're going to test this solenoid. This is the shutoff solenoid, and it's definitely got some it's drawing amps when I put power to it, so I know that there's a continuous coil there, and you don't see this draw in, but when I push it slightly it draws in and it stays, and then when I release it, it releases. So I think it just needs to be installed, and then it will work fine when it's installed. I could feel it. You can hear it. Listen. So it's working. That solenoid's good. Okay, also while that other stuff is cleaning in the ultrasonic, I'm going to go ahead and clean this air intake. The inside of it's not too bad, but I just want to get the outside of it a little cleaner if I'm going to have it off the machine. There's no sense in not cleaning it. And really what I should do with this entire engine, when I get everything back together, is spray it with some degreasing solution and let it sit for a while, and then give it a good pressure wash, you know, to get it nice and clean. Something worth looking at again, you know. I know this model of mower takes a lot of flack, you know, this series of mowers, and a lot of it probably has to do with the difficulty of repair, you know, because as we've seen already, you know, stuff is just kind of hard to get to. It's real compact in there, but that's the price that you pay for something that does a lot in a very small package, because it's a small mower. But it has a decent sized mowing deck, and it is a ride-on. And you know, this was a trend at the time this thing came out, because you know, you had all these people with not a whole lot of room in their garages or outbuildings, you know, to store something big, but there was still a market there for, you know, ride-on mowers. There's still demand if they could make it small enough. So I think that was the goal, was to engineer something that was small enough to store in a lot of people's outbuildings. It's not a top-of-the-line John Deere, but it is an older John Deere. It's got a decent Kawasaki engine on it that does still have obtainable parts, and probably will for years and years to come. So it's just something that I think it's wise to try to preserve and use the thing.
if I can. You know, it makes no sense to let it go to the dump, put it that way. Even if I'm in it, even if I'm going to be in it for a couple $100, I think in the long term it's gonna pay for itself. It'd be worth it. Let that soak for a little while and then come back to it.